terror group loves Joe Biden. So asserts the Israeli National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, posted on X after Biden is bragging about withholding ammunition and bombs from Israel if they cross the red line that he has drawn in the sand and go into Rafah, which is where the terrorists are now gathered. Well, we'll withhold the weapons and the ammunition that Israel needs. And the Israeli National Security Minister just posted a very simple tweet: Hamas, heart, Biden. That's it. Hamas loves Biden. I'm sure they do. This has got to be music to their ears. Gosh, I'm praying that we get this right on November the 5th and that we get the kind of clarity in leadership that we desperately need from somebody like Donald J. Trump. Biden can't even read the teleprompter. Did you see his interview yesterday where the interviewer just hammered him on the inflation, on the borders, on crime? I mean, he doesn't know what to say. How do you defend your record when it's this abysmal? You can't. You can't possibly. Well, one thing you can do is lie, and you can send out your acolytes to lie for you. I flipped on the 5 yesterday on Fox News Channel, and that Marie Harf was sitting there. It's always kind of a parlor game. It's like a drinking game. Who are you going to get on the 5 as the 5th liberal? If it's Harold Ford, I can kind of tolerate him. He's not so bad. He seems like a pretty nice guy. If it's what's the young lady's name? Yeah, Jessica Tarloff just had the baby. She makes me go up she makes my skin crawl. And Marie Harf is one of the worst of the worst. Well, she's on the panel yesterday, but see, Greg Gutfeld doesn't give anybody any quarter. And they repeat the lie of January 6th that somehow Trump inspired the violence that took place that day. It's one of the biggest lies that I've ever heard. I've played over and over, and you know how you know they're lying? Because they never include what Trump said on January 6th at the speech he gave. What he said was, I can play it over and over again. Played it a gazillion times. What's a gazillion and one?
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
That's what he said to his supporters on January 6th. That's what they think is an insurrection. Now, of course, they don't think that's an insurrection. It's the opposite of inciting a crowd or inspiring an insurrection. But they always leave that out. They never include that. Every documentary I've ever seen about January 6th, every bit of news coverage, they always omit Trump telling people to go peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. They always leave that out. And Marie Harf tried to do that yesterday on Fox News, but Greg Gutfeld wasn't having it.
So here's the difference. January 6th was encouraged by Donald Trump.
When he said peaceful?
When he said, go down to the Capitol, I'm going to be with you.
Be peaceful.
All of his.
Why do you avoid that?
Because, Greg, that does not erase the months of rhetoric where he was encouraging groups to protest the results of this election. No.
You hate the words that he says.
He took away the. You hate a lot.
No, I'm actually saying what he said.
I mean, these people are so despicable. And when she got caught yesterday in that exchange you just heard, then she pivoted to, well, that doesn't include the months that he said you should protest. In other words, and the debate at the time was comparing the actions of people at the Capitol on January 6th to all of these anti-Israel protesters today. I mean, Michael Moore yesterday, you heard him, breaking windows and taking over buildings should continue. That's one of the lions of the left. Michael Moore, one of the big lead voices of the progressive movement in America. Keep it up. He wants to see it going. You still have that from yesterday, Christian? Can we pop that in? This is Michael Moore. Roger and Me, Fahrenheit 9/11, all these movies he's made. Big, rich, influential voice. He's got his own podcast that I'm sure millions of people follow. And on his podcast, this smart guy actually tried to make the case that breaking into a building and commandeering it, taking a building over, is not violent. Now, again, it's a really important theme to think about comparing the actions of the people on January 6th at the Capitol with what's happening today on colleges all over America. Here's the marching orders from Michael Moore.
I think this is just going to continue across the country. I hope it continues. I applaud every student who's taking a stand on their campus at graduation, whatever. This is the purpose of a democracy, is to be able to redress your grievances, to assemble, to have free speech, and to disrupt. Yes, disrupt. Non-violently disrupt. And when I'm talking about non-violence, I'm not talking about, you do have the right to take over the administration building. I'll tell you, just speaking from Flint, we would have no UAW, no auto workers union, if back in the 30s, the auto workers, including my uncle, had not taken over the factories. They broke windows, they locked all the doors, they kept all the police and the National Guard out for 44 straight days in the middle of winter until they won the right to be recognized by General Motors and to be paid a living wage. That only happened because they took over the factories. Yes, you have to take over buildings. That is not violence.
Building. If we want to protest you, Michael Moore, can people take over your mansion in Michigan? Now, of course not. And I'm not encouraging that, and anybody who does should be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But following your logic, if a bunch of Michael Moore protesters want to stop you from saying the reprehensible things you say, can we take over your house? We break in and break your windows and break your door and go into your home? If that is a form of peaceful protest, why does it stop with administration buildings on college campuses? I'm serious. Honest question. Is that what he thinks? I'll bet you he's in favor of agitators outside the Supreme Court, justices' homes. I'll bet you he's all for that. The logic is absolutely missing here. There is nothing logical about this. Nothing.
Mike Gallagher.
One more clip from the 5 yesterday, and it was a smart observation from Jesse Waters. He said, let's do the math. How many hours of violence was there during the Summer of Love after George Floyd died? How many hours of violence? Add them up. How many cities burned? How many buildings were destroyed? And then let's compare that to January 6th. Since January 6th is the be-all, end-all for these loony leftists and these dirty Democrats who want to try to incarcerate Trump, claiming, like Marie Harf did yesterday on TV, that Trump somehow inspired the violence of January 6th. And forget all the debate about, the presence of bad actors that were there and cops letting people into the building and all that. We know all that. I get it. There were people that did bad things that day. Compare January 6th to the Black Lives Matter riots. Or compare January 6th to what is happening right now on college campuses where people are screaming, guillotine, guillotine, chop the heads off of college administrators and the cops. Here's what Jesse said.
So according to my arithmetic, that would be 215 total hours of left-wing violence. Now, let's compare that to January 6th. I looked at the timeline. It went from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So that's 5 hours. Okay, I'm not downplaying January 6th. That's political violence. 215 hours, according to my calculations, a little bit more than 5 hours. So let's just look at the rhetoric, shall we? Yes, some people may have chanted, "Hang Mike Pence," and I condemn. But then I just heard on May 6th, a lot of chants of guillotine, 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 off with their heads. I've also heard things like go back to the oven, from the river to the sea, and intifada. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, not intifada.
Right. Not enchilada, intifada.
Intifada.
And
Intifada.
not only that,
Hello,
you're
Mata.
seeing people align themselves with Hamas. Not just anti-Israel, they are aligning themselves with a foreign terrorist organization. I don't remember seeing a lot of people with Russian hats on January 6th. I didn't see a lot of pro-Putin people out there. So, and you know what? Let's just not count the urban warfare in the inner city because those aren't Republicans shooting up the place. Let's just, to be fair, because I want to be fair to you. It's pretty clear that you cannot continue to say that right-wing violence is a major, major issue in the United States when the left is terrorizing the country almost every single day, every single year.
He is completely 100% correct. I challenge you to tell me differently. 1-800-655-MIKE. Compare the protests we're seeing now. Guillotine, guillotine, kill the pigs, kill the Jews. From the river to the sea, eradicate Israel. I dare you to tell me that January 6th was somehow worse. And then I double dog dare you to tell me that anything Trump did is worse than what we're hearing now.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
That doesn't sound like kill the Jews, cut off their heads, or Michael Moore, go occupy buildings, break windows, kick down doors, and occupy buildings because that's not violence. I don't think we can debate January 6th. I'm not willing to debate that there was any violence on January 6th. There was. We've seen the video. I don't know necessarily who was perpetrating the violence, but there was violence. Michael Moore sees what's happening on college campuses and says there was no violence. There is no violence. It's not violent to break, he even says break windows. What a bunch of degenerates. What a bunch of lying, despicable people continuing to lie about January 6th and lying about what we're witnessing in real time right now.